We get started? All right, good morning. Thank you so much everyone for joining us. This is our first group advising session from the Pre-Medical and Pre-Dental Advising Office. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope your semesters are off to a good start. So before we begin, we would like to share our office's pet policy. This is very important, and so just letting you know that if a pet does happen to enter the camera frame during this presentation, we will pause our discussion for an introduction to that pet and admiration by all. So actually, Heather, that has already happened. Would you be willing to introduce your little buddy there?
Yeah, I was going to say, Lenny has just joined my lap. So this is Lenny, and then Allie's around here somewhere too. But good morning. I'm one of the new pre-med advisors to the team, Heather.
Thank you, Heather. And here's a very small sampling of some of the other amazing animals you might see when working with any staff from our office. All right, and before we begin as well, I would invite Erin, our director, to say a few words about some of the things that our office is committed to.
Good morning, everybody. I want to say welcome. I'm Dr. Erin Ceramboli, the Director of University and Pre-Professional Advising. You get to see a couple of the faces right now on your screen of our amazing staff, and Krista's going to introduce you to a couple of others in just a minute. I wanted to mention first a big welcome to all of our new first year and transfer students to UConn. You've made it to day 10, which is amazing. And thank you for being here today. We know that you're the eager ones who are ready to dive into your pre-med journey. And to those of you who may be juniors, seniors looking to apply later this year or in the future, we welcome you as well. We want to stress that we are all about exploration. We are about making sure you're being reflective in your pathway toward medicine or dental medicine or other health professions. And that once you make your decision, whether it's time to apply now or later or a few years down the road, our office is happy to support you in that journey and make sure that you're putting forward your best foot as you look towards health profession schools. Over the past year, our office has grown a bit, but we've also reiterated our commitment to the importance of Black and Brown lives, and we want to make sure we are sustaining our commitment to all of our students at UConn, but we want to celebrate the success of students from historically marginalized and underrepresented groups. Medicine is an area that we know many groups of people have been excluded from in the past, and we want to make sure our office is here to support all of those who have been traditionally underrepresented in medicine and dental medicine and uplift your stories. So we welcome everybody today, and we look forward to meeting you over the next few months.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, so before we begin, just a little bit of contact info as well. I do encourage you to check out our website, premed.uconn.edu. There's a wealth of information there, and we've been updating it a lot over this past year. So a lot of really new, great resources in terms of academics, application process related things. And one of the projects Heather is working on is a lot of alumni engagement and connection. So we're really excited too for some of the upcoming things we have for this year. You can always email us at premed_predental@uconn.edu. And then we also have a very active Instagram account, which you can find a lot of events and shout outs and other things for both UConn and non-UConn related announcements. We are mainly based in the Rowe building on the 4th floor. And so we do have some staff from our office in on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So people are a bit staggered right now. But for example, I am in the office right now, as is Dr. Sanford. Okay, and so just a little bit about our office. First of all, we are part of the overall enrichment programs department. And so enrichment programs is a very cool department because it offers programs to really enhance and enrich your undergraduate education, no matter what college or school at UConn you're in, or campus, or major area. And so we do encourage you to check out our website as well, because some of our sister units or the other subunits in the department might have different opportunities that really appeal to you. So for example, there is the honors program, the individualized and interdisciplinary studies program, and you can actually create something called an individualized major. The health-related IMJRs, as we call them for short, have been incredibly popular over the past couple of years. There is the Office of National Scholarships Fellowships. There is our Office of Pre-Professional Advising, which also has the Pre-Law Advising Office. The Office of Undergraduate Research, which a lot of pre-med and pre-dent students make use of, and then the University Scholar Program. So that's where we fit in the overall scheme of UConn, and we do encourage you to come, drop by, and say hi to us on the 4th floor of Rowe. And just as one small example of how, well, not small, but how you might enrich or enhance your undergraduate education, Akshaya is a fairly recent graduate who somehow managed to touch almost every individual unit in enrichment programs. So she did a lot of work in the honors program. She did design her own individualized major in health policy and social medicine. So that's a really cool interdisciplinary blend of different academic disciplines. She did participate in the health research program at UConn Health. And then she won a variety of prestigious scholarships to study abroad, and after working on her graduate degree in the UK, has just begun medical school actually at UCLA Med. So this is just one example though of how you can really navigate some of the different resources here, no matter what your interests are. All right, and in terms of who we are, so Erin, can I ask you to just briefly introduce yourself one more time, please?
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Erin Ceramboli, the Director of University and Pre-Professional Advising at UConn. I joined the team last May during COVID times, a year and a half ago, and I'm excited to be back in the office and meeting students this fall. I was previously at the University of Georgia, go Dogs, and am just excited to be a part of Husky Nation.
Thank you. And my calendar had a little bulldog on it today. I thought of you. Okay, on the pre-dental side of things, we have Dr. Thomas Abbott. And so the pictures just correspond to the names over on the left. And Dr. Abbott is also one of the instructors of Biology 1107, which is, I know, kind of like a rite of passage for many pre-med and pre-dents at UConn. So he's very passionate about biology. Next, we have Emma Beliveau. She is also a UConn alumni, and she works part-time for us this semester as an advisor and also doing a lot of behind-the-scenes website development and other initiatives. Heather, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Heather Nunes, and I'm a new pre-med advisor to the team, started this summer. Previously was in Georgia as well, but at Kennesaw State University, and so excited to work with you all.
Thank you. Next, we have Paris Pruitt, who recently received her graduate degree from UConn. And so she works with us mainly in the evenings these days, and she does offer a variety of drop-in hours and is doing some dedicated outreach to a lot of different units on campus, including cultural centers, SSS. And so we're really excited to have her as part of the team too in the evening, which is great for a lot of alumni schedules as well. My name is Krista Rogers. I'm an advisor in the unit, and I also help coordinate a lot of these workshops and other things. And it does feel a little weird being back in the office right now, but I'm liking the energy, and I just keep looking out the window at everyone in the Student Union Quad. All right, Sue Ruggiero provides a lot of administrative support to our unit. She also does a lot of work with our postbacks and getting them registered for courses. We'll mention that program in a little bit. And last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Keith Sanford. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Just a welcome to everybody. Pleasure to work with you. Had some experience with the university at the medical school and now here through enrichment programs advising. So I've seen sort of health professions education from both ends of the pipeline, preparing students for professional school and in and through professional school. So pleasure to have you here and happy to meet and advise you at any time.
Thank you, Dr. Sanford. And so we do encourage you, please check out our advisor profiles on our website as well. You will have access to these slides, by the way, after the presentation. They will be uploaded to our website along with the recording, but you can find out more information about any of our advisors on our website. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit about what our office actually does and what are the things that we spend a lot of our time doing throughout the year. So first of all, these group advising sessions, you are joining the very first one of this academic year. And we do ask that anyone new to UConn or new to a pre-medical, pre-dental track attend these at least once. So this is really important to serve as an orientation to who we are, what we do. We are going to dive into some academics in a bit as well. And then that's going to be followed by more specific and targeting programming throughout the fall semester. So we do have 2 other group advising sessions this fall scheduled at different times to try to accommodate different schedules. If you're tuning into this one now live and or watching the recording, you've done your job, and after that, you are always welcome to schedule a one-on-one advising appointment through our office if you still have more individualized or personalized questions. So in terms of one-on-one advising, you can make an appointment with a pre-med advisor actually through a request form right on our website. We do it's really important to request it through that form, not email any of the advisors directly, mainly for data tracking purposes. And so you can click on the link afterwards to make that appointment. If you are pre-dent, then you can actually schedule the appointment yourself on Nexus. So if you're new to UConn, Nexus is a big scheduling tool. You can find many staff and faculty from different departments on it. Just go to nexus.uconn.edu and look for Dr. Abbott's name. And this semester, he's holding advising hours on Wednesday evenings. We're also incredibly excited to announce the arrival of our very first cohort of health professions peer ambassadors. So we're still doing some onboarding right now, but we have 6 members in this brand new cohort. And they're going to be doing some really fantastic things, mentoring, leading some different workshops and other events that are of interest to them. And this will be a great way for you to connect with your peers as well if you want to hear more about their different pathways to medicine and exploration. Okay, so hang tight about that. We will have more details coming up soon. Okay, this is just to highlight some of Paris's drop-in advising hours. So she does generally hold these hours Mondays through Thursdays from 4 to 5. So you do not need an appointment to join one of these, and her WebEx room is listed right there. Also, we're also hosting drop-in in-person hours on Thursdays. So Erin, myself, and Dr. Sanford are here on Thursdays, and so this month from 1 to 3 p.m. you can find us in our offices in a row, and you do not need an appointment for these either. If you just want to drop in, introduce yourself, you have a couple quick questions, or pick up one of the 1,000 stress balls or pens that we have in our office, please do swing by. Okay, the first point here is really, really important. We do have an emailing list, and so if you do anything after this presentation, please make sure to email us at premed_predental@uconn.edu and just say, I would like to be added to the emailing list. We do typically send out a weekly newsletter with just upcoming events and opportunities, both announcements from our office, including all the critical application cycle related information, but also highlighting things like student org events on campus or other UConn things that may be of interest to a diverse group of pre-health professional students, and a lot of the national type events and fairs and even external opportunities. So a lot of times we might get positions from local hospitals who are looking for more student volunteers or EMTs, CNAs, that kind of thing. Okay, so please do make sure to get on our emailing list. That is our main way of staying in touch with you and kind of our official, unofficial way of knowing that you are interested in being on a pre-med or pre-dent track, because there's no official system designation for that. Just to throw it out there too, our office does offer a spring MCAT review course. This is only in the spring. It's typically for about 10 or 11 weeks and meets for a few hours on Saturday mornings. It does assume that you've already had the content training, so meaning you've taken all the prerequisite coursework, and it really does focus on test-taking strategies for that content. So usually people don't enroll in it till probably junior year at the earliest. And lastly, just to make sure it's on your radar, our post-bac program did undergo a recent name change, and so we now have the Pre-Medical and Health Professions post-bac program. And this is a certificate program offered through the graduate school, either 1 or 2 years, really intended for two types of student. So those who maybe decided a little later on in their undergraduate careers that they did want to apply to health professional school and still have a really good chunk of prereqs to take. And then those who maybe want to enhance their undergraduate GPA by either retaking some courses or supplementing with additional upper division courses as well. Erin, Dr. Sanford, would you like to say anything about the postbac program this year, just on an intro level?
You're welcome. Go ahead, Erin.
You go ahead. You're the expert, Dr. Sanford. I'll let you introduce them.
So the history of the postbac program here at Connecticut, this is something we started when I was down at the medical school about 20 years ago. We have a good solid history. This is a small program, has about 15 to 18 students per year. As Krista described, two different sets. Some start with basic biology and chemistry and math. Others come in and focus primarily on upper division sciences. It's viewed as an enhancement and enrichment program, and we've had great success with students placing not only at UConn School of Medicine, but a number of other medical schools. We've had dental students also move on to dental schools, both here in Connecticut and other states. Had some students shift gears a little bit and apply and then enter physician assistant training programs. Some have tracked to some research positions, others have tracked to nursing. So historically it's worked very well. Good, strong cohort again this year. It's a great pleasure to work with this group of students because they are a little older. They're all college graduates. They come at different points of their life, different areas of interest for sure and experiences, and it's just wonderful to see how well this group of students bonds in their mission to prepare and move on to professional school. So a great pleasure to work with them.
I just wanted to add to what Dr. Sanford mentioned. If you are a first year, second year new student at UConn, just be aware that our postbac program exists. It's for students who maybe want a little more coursework after graduating with their bachelor's degree. So nothing to worry about right now, but for those of you maybe who are on the call or watching this recording and are later in your career and want to talk about some options, you can visit our website to learn more about our postbac program or schedule an appointment with Dr. Sanford.
Yes, thank you. And just really want to hammer in the point that, it's never too late to join this kind of track. And that's exactly why this type of program exists at UConn and many, many other universities as well.
Just to add a little data to that, the oldest student admitted to our postbac was 40. His wife came a year later. She was 39 at the time. She began to postbac, both completed it and moved on to medical schools and are now in training and doing well. The youngest,
Fantastic. Case in point.
youngest coming to the postbac was 21. Youngest person we admitted to the medical school years back was 19 admission to medical school.
Okay, and charging ahead, so here is a snapshot of some of our fall programming that we have on the calendar. So we are going to have a mini series of Health Foundations workshops that are going to be held on Tuesday afternoons. The very first one is later this month, and it's going to be all about co-curricular engagement. So we're going to introduce some topics today about things like gaining clinical experience or service or research. But we're not going to take a deep dive into that until September 28th. And so all of these workshops too will be recorded. They'll be stuck on our website. So if you're not able to join them live, you will still have access to them. Okay, and then one upcoming after that is going to be about the core competency areas and overall motivation for medicine. And then lastly, exploring some different health professions. We are also continuing our series called Chat with Alumni that we began last academic year. These are going to be a bit later in the evening on Wednesdays. And so here's our plan for our 3 events this semester, beginning with first-gen college students, especially applying to health professional schools. The second one, a really dedicated focus on growth years, which you might hear called as a gap year, enrichment year, but we do call them growth years around here. And they're actually the norm these days in terms of students applying to medical and dental school. And then lastly, rounding that off with a programming on MD PhD tracks. This is just a sample, our very last Chat with Alumni event from the spring, and then an interviewing workshop that we did hold over the summer, actually geared towards our current cycle applicants. Okay, and so now we're just going to shift gears a little bit and talk about what does holistic admissions mean in terms of medical and dental schools. So actually, Dr. Sanford, would you like to introduce the concept of holistic admissions?
Yeah, sure. Many students, when they start to get interested in looking into the health professional schools, you're immediately sort of bombarded with numeric data. So one of the things we have to sort of disabuse students of is that admissions is just all about numerics. Indeed, you have to do well in school, so we want you to get off on the right foot, develop exceptional study habits, and have high standards for yourself. But indeed, admissions committees are looking for a whole bunch of things as they evaluate your candidacy for the school. Certainly how you've done in academics, test scores, MCAT, DAT, GRE, that sort of thing. If you're moving on to different health professional areas, as things you need to be aware of and work hard at and prepare for. Certainly work with your advisors in your designated majors to be sure that you're meeting the expectations and standards of your degree program you're in, but certainly reach out to any or all of us here that are charged a little bit more specifically with sort of getting you to think about and honing your preparations for the careers that you aspire to. So beyond sort of academics, beyond the test score situation, certainly schools are looking for some degree of experience in the field. For a lot of the health professions, this involves a little bit of shadowing, which is identified more or less as a passive exercise where you're sort of sitting in the background, looking intently on what's going on and absorbing and, making some, acknowledgements and judgments about the kind of skills you see displayed in the practitioners that you observe. So schools expect some degree of shadowing. They do also expect some degree of clinical experience working directly with patients in one way or the other. This often involves, some volunteer work, perhaps at a hospital or clinic. May well involve certification programs like EMT or nurse's aide or medical assistants or others. Scribing is usually popular today as well. So, your clinical experience and to be able to present enough of that to be convincing to admissions committees that you're very serious about this, you've looked into it, you sort of dipped your toe in the pond and, felt that this was a good match for you, is something that you need to schedule for yourself and test yourself in a way to see if you're as interested in this field as you think you might be, based upon just experience itself. Schools like to see in research. At many schools, it's not a formal requirement, but appreciate that science and medicine is all about research and innovation and developing new treatments and procedures. So some experience and excitement about this is certainly something that schools want to see. I've never seen research held against somebody as they go ahead to apply to professional school. So, and as a Research One university here, there's tremendous opportunities for you. And it's one of the things you should surely try to take advantage of. So clinical and research service is another sort of big category that schools pay a lot of attention to. They want to see where this impulse for service comes from in you and to what extent you've shown it and demonstrated it in things you've gotten involved with. There must be at least 50 or so different health-related clubs on campus. You know, if you go to club meetings all the time, you'll never have time to do your homework. So, you know, be a little bit of a nerd first and make that your primary focus. Once you got your feet on the ground there, you're doing well. Certainly branch out to get involved, get to know some of these different groups and societies, you know, check out what their programming is and partake in the programming, you know, that seems to fit you best. You know, the big sort of catchphrase is quality over quantity. Here, admissions committees are very savvy about picking up people who have demonstrated some, you know, serious interest in an area and made a commitment to it over a longer period of time, rather than to just sort of develop a checkbox list. Oh yeah, I did this, I did this, I did this. So, but never really having committed to any, you know, one or more sort of areas of interest for service. In general, think of service as a broad category. Certainly some of it can be related to clinical experience, and that is expected. But think of service more broadly in terms of other areas you might well be, you know, very involved in already, you know, even in your family, in your church community, in your home community. There are opportunities for service everywhere. So it's identifying where you'd like to make your contributions and then focus on. Excuse me.
Thank you. And actually, something you said reminded me, I just wanted to clarify a point because we often get a question, who is my pre-med advisor? And so we are not a major department here. You know, pre-med, pre-dent is not a major at UConn, and that's quite typical. So we do not assign you a pre-med or pre-dent advisor. Well, Dr. Abbott is kind of the pre-dent advisor by default. However, you know, we work in tandem with whoever your assigned major advisor is, just to make sure you are meeting the academic requirements and other things along the way. And if you certainly get to know an advisor very well, you are welcome to always, you know, request an appointment with them specifically, and you certainly keep in touch with them throughout your journey as well. Okay, so speaking of majors, we really want to emphasize today that your major can be anything as long as you demonstrate strength in the core entrance requirements for medical or dental school. So some majors, it goes without saying though, are a little more flexible and they might overlap with some of these core entrance requirements more than others. So the really popular majors for pre-meds, pre-dent at UConn do tend to be along the lines of biological sciences, MCB, PNB. However, we've really seen everything. We have growing bundles, I would say, growing pockets in biomedical engineering. I've seen psychology increasing, psychological sciences over the past couple of years, along with many other areas. And so you should pursue what you're passionate about. You know, whatever you can talk about excitedly at a future interview, whatever you're going to excel in. And just two quick anecdotes I like to share is that in the 2018 cycle, our student who matriculated to Stanford Medical School was actually an English major. I love that so much. And then the former president of the Pre-Dental Society at UConn was actually a history major, which is really fantastic. And he's now at UConn Dental. And so, you know, as long as you do demonstrate strength in the sciences and the entrance prereqs, you should major in whatever you want. We do come back to this idea of breadth, depth, and rigor, however. Erin, would you like to introduce these concepts?
Sure. I think the ideas of breadth, depth, and rigor are really feeding into this idea of being a holistic student, a holistic human being, and a holistic health professional. So the idea of the breadth is this, you know, choosing courses and academic areas from a variety of areas. You want to maybe You're not just going to focus only in biology or chemistry. Let's pull some classes from the social sciences. Let's make sure that you have had some classes in writing and some classes in math and maybe some things that interest you, a foreign language perhaps. Depth is this idea that you do want to take a rich set of classes in a specific area, whether you're an English major or a biology major, or like Krista said, a psychological sciences major, digging deep into your major area and being creative in what you choose. And then rigor, making sure you're not afraid to take some of those 3,000 and 4,000 level classes, or maybe engage in some research that you might be getting credit for. So not just taking those intro level classes in your areas, but trying to, whether it's in your major, your minor, or just in a passion area, taking some classes that have a little bit more challenge to them.
Thank you so much. Okay, at this point, I think I am going to just pull up our website and showcase a couple of the resources on there. So give me one moment, please. Can you see the website? Okay, awesome. So this is right on our website if you go under the current students tab, and then we do actually have a whole page about major exploration, which we're continuing to build, along with the course requirements. And so we do have 3 tabs here. The first tab is about our recommendations for the minimum requirements. And so the professional schools, you know, they all do put out their own entrance requirements, and some of them are very specific in terms of saying, we want a semester of this or a year of that, you know, X number of semesters, whereas other schools have taken more of a competency-based approach, it's called. So they say that we want to see that you have explored and taken courses and done well in these areas, but we're not going to dictate exactly what those courses need to be. So trying to keep all of those things in mind, we've come up with this list of UConn specific courses as really making you a well-rounded applicant no matter where you want to apply. So we do take a little safe rather than sorry approach in terms of our advising here. Just really quickly too, we do have more information about the breadth, depth, and rigor that Erin just introduced, and a whole tab about AP, which we'll also get to in a moment. So in terms of minimal requirements, I think Dr. Sanford, traditionally I have you introduce these. Would you like to go over those briefly, please? And then we do, by the way, have a sample course timeline on here. This is by no means the only way to do this. This is just one example for some students who wanted a visual of maybe mapping things out a bit. However, we do really want to stress the idea of, you know, being open-minded moving forward too, because there's going to be opportunities that present themselves that aren't even on your radar now. So actually we tend to shy away a little bit from trying to map out your schedule for all 4 years moving forward, your first semester of college. All right, Dr. Sanford, please take it away.
Yeah, I know a lot of you come into this process being as prescriptive as possible to sort of have every detail nailed down before you're at the end of your first week of college. It really isn't that way in reality. I mean, you're here to investigate things, to, you know, consider different opinions, to consider different disciplines and courses. So, you know, part of being here is exploring a bit. So don't be afraid to do that. You know, work closely with your, again, academic advisor in your major discipline to make sure you're meeting the standards and expectations for your degree there. But keep in mind, you know, this is a time of personal exploration. Historically, the basic requirements to go on to professional school basically involved some math, biology, chemistry, and physics. So, you know, a year of those historically has been the sort of foundation for students thinking about, you know, health professional careers, particularly in medicine and in dental medicine. And some of the other health professional areas don't involve quite as much depth as you are expected to have in those subject areas, but it still involves a consideration of those, you know, basic scientific principles, that it's the grounding of the professions. Now, over the years, calculus has used to be a pretty standard 1-year calculus was required for most professional schools, but a lot of schools have backed off that. and you'll see many don't require it. We still feel it's important for you to have a good quantitative background. So it's something you should consider and think about. You may be doing a year of calculus anyway if you're in a Bachelor of Science program that requires it. So you're doing it for your major and you're doing it for your understanding of your own discipline. And it's certainly not going to hurt you as you move ahead. Many people find advanced mathematics very time consuming and very difficult. So it's we ask you to at least consider taking it if you're in a major that doesn't require it. Our general rule of thumb is to have you maybe do 1 semester of calc and 1 semester of statistics. Basic biology year, basic chemistry year, schools expect virtually any health professional school expects you to have that. Year of physics, some require a full year, others don't necessarily require it or require a full year. So there are nuances that you do have to research this. You can gain a lot of information off websites, and the group here has put together amazing websites. So certainly pay close attention to that. In recent years, there's been some additions really to the prerequisites, particularly for the medical school side of things. So biochemistry, by and large, is a formal requirement at most medical schools now. They really don't teach biochemistry as a formal course. You're just expected to have the background coming into school these days. So it's something we identify as a course in MCB that you should incorporate into your planning. Psychology and sociology are also now tested on the MCAT and are emerging as classes many of the schools identify specifically as prerequisites, or at least will make some general statement about good, strong liberal arts preparation is expected in the humanities, social sciences, and sciences. So there's some leeway in terms of what specific courses you may take to meet the requirement, but in general, some familiarity with those disciplines is identified. Biostatistics and stats is a general focus again that schools like to see. So that's sort of how things have been historically with the sort of 4 main areas. It has been added to in recent years. Again, schools have their own individual stance relating to their prerequisites. So it's a good idea just to sort of familiarize yourself with some schools that you hear about, that you're thinking about. And in the end, don't get caught short on needing to, filter in another class that you may have missed earlier. So that's the sort of basic prerequisites. We have a lot of students that major in science because it seems a reasonable thing to do given your interest, but indeed it's a myth. You don't necessarily have to major in science, as Chris has pointed out. We've had some very interesting candidates that have come from other disciplined areas that have certainly done just as well in the sciences as well and found admission to schools. We do have a lot of students that do a major minor combination, sometimes a couple of majors. I think we had one last year. I think it did 3 majors and maybe a couple of minors. So you don't have to add them up. You don't necessarily get extra points or credits for doing extra stuff, and you're here to explore your interests, and don't sell yourself short there, and use this time indeed to explore your interest a bit more. I think I'll stop there, and people certainly chime in.
Thank you, thank you. I do invite actually at this point anyone with any questions of coursework related, specific courses or sequencing, that kind of thing, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And then could I ask either Aaron or Heather to please monitor that? Okay, also just to quickly point out this link right here for AMCAS MSAR reports. That's the medical school admission requirements reports. This is like the official tool. It's a compilation of the different policies and requirements at all MD programs in the country. This is updated very regularly. So that's a great official resource. And then I do want Oh, it looks like we might have a question. I can't see it anymore. Could someone read it, please?
Krista, is there an advantage for 1401 over 1201 for the MCAT? And does the MCAT test calculus-based physics?
So first of all, good news. Well, could be good or bad for certain people, but there's no calculus on the MCAT. That is not, something you need for the MCAT. We generally recommend the 1401 sequence for pre-medical students just because it has that added level of rigor to it. And especially if you're getting a Bachelor of Science degree, you have to take that year of calculus anyway for your degree. However, if that is not a requirement for your plan of study, or maybe calculus is just not your cup of tea, the 1201 sequence is perfectly fine, and there are plenty of other ways to build rigor in. Do we have anything else? Okay, awesome. Actually, while I have you, Erin, would you like to say a few words about AP credit?
Yeah, AP credit is a bit tricky. AP credit, and we're not talking about ECE credit here. ECE credit is college credit, no questions. But AP credit is something that most medical schools will accept, with the caveat that they still want to see you, engaging in breadth, depth, and rigor. So using AP credit as a springboard to take more advanced classes in those areas, to supplement with more challenging classes. If you have AP credit for bio, go ahead and take some of those upper level classes, whether cell bio or genetics or other things that are of interest to you. They don't want to see you fulfilling all of your pre-med admissions requirements with AP credit. They want to see that you've been engaged and sustained in your involvement. I will mention, though, that some schools are a little more strict about their AP credit requirements. The UConn School of Medicine is one of them. UConn School of Medicine does not accept any AP credits for their prerequisite admissions requirements, and Krista is highlighting that right now. We have some very specific documentation and policies about that, and I'm happy to chat more with you about that. If you do have AP credit, and we're planning on using some of that, it doesn't mean you need to retake the same class. It means you can take upper level classes. So for example, UConn Med wants you to take 2 years of college credit of chemistry, so the equivalent of 4 semesters with lab. And we can help you figure out how to do that with a combination of organic chemistry, with some biochemistry, and maybe one additional upper level chemistry class. So it doesn't mean we want you to retake all of your AP credits. It just means having a plan for supplementing them with additional coursework. We have one question in the chat. These minimum requirements need to be done before applying to med school. Could I complete my 1 year of English after applying? The answer is yes. They need to be completed before you apply or while you're applying. Typically, we'll say you could have one outstanding requirement at the time of application. Dr. Sanford, can you confirm I'm using the correct language there with one outstanding requirement? Sometimes it's organic lab that students have left to complete. Others have maybe, like you said, one English class.
Now, the only addition I would make is usually schools want to have it done by December. Because if you're planning to do it your last semester and you're hoping to go right into school, and they don't even get your grades confirmed for that till they've made a decision on your application. So most of the schools do want to see that final prerequisite completed by December. There are some exceptions to that too, for individual schools and individual situations, but one is still needing to fulfill a prerequisite. I usually advise them to, if not sort of do it over the summer, do it in the fall semester so it's done by December.
Sarah has asked if biochem is considered a biology course. In most cases, it can be either biology or chemistry, but not both. So you want to choose which area it is. Many of our students need additional chemistry credits, so they will use that for their chemistry coursework requirements.
Excellent. Let me just wait one more moment if we have any other questions coming in.
One question, Krista, does this apply the same way for dental requirements?
In terms of AP or course, when courses are done?
Yes, I believe so. And can you kind of mention the AP credit policy for dental as you understand it?
Yep. So the dental schools, we have spoken with UConn Dental as well. And so one key thing to note here is that the dental schools really do want to see introductory level courses in many of these academic disciplines. So for example, they really do want to see that a student has taken or has credit for 1107 and 1108 biology at UConn. In fact, the content of 1108 is quite emphasized on the DAT. And so UConn Dental is a little more flexible in terms of accepting that AP credit, but they do want to see that you have credit for the introductory level courses regardless. I think I see one question. When can I schedule a one-on-one meeting? So as soon as you've finished watching this presentation, you can go on our website and request a one-on-one appointment if you would like, if you still have more personalized questions. Is there anything else? Okay, excellent. I'm going to keep moving ahead then. Okay, so academics are one part of those holistic admissions, but Dr. Sanford also introduced the idea of other things, so the more experiential parts of your application and candidacy. And so we're just going to call these kind of as an umbrella group co-curricular engagement. This includes things such as gaining clinical experience. We also sometimes call it medically related experience. And we often break it into two different areas. I like to think of them as two sides of the same coin. So we have shadowing and then direct patient care experience. Shadowing a little more passive, direct patient care experience more active. You either have that one-on-one interaction with patients and or you're the one administering the healthcare in some form. Okay, and so it is a great idea to get a balance of both of these areas. You know, shadowing is also important though, just to try out the profession, you know, make sure it's the correct fit for you, maybe sample some different specialties, see what appeals to you. Okay, and then we also talked a bit about the importance of service and just demonstrating that you are going into this profession out of a genuine desire to serve others. So what kind of a service orientation do you have? And that might be something that overlaps with your clinical experience. So for example, if you volunteer at a hospital or an elder care facility on a regular basis, or it could be something not medically related. So if you have a passion for working with children, maybe you're part of one of the Big Sisters, Big Brothers groups, or maybe you tutor children after school, or even virtual tutoring these days. So it is important though to build up that service, ideally over an extended time on a regular basis. Dr. Sanford also introduced the ideas of research independent scholarship and just really exploring things, becoming familiar with the scientific process. And this, by the way, does not need to be in STEM. And so I think that's another really big misconception that you have to be doing, you know, for example, benchwork biotype research, but you can do research in any department at this university, and the Office of Undergraduate Research, linked below, has a wealth of resources for helping you to explore your interest, connect with different faculty members, and then a variety of programs to help fund that research too. And so that's something we're going to talk more about all these different areas, however, at our upcoming co-curricular engagement session later this month. So just hang tight. You can see on the right, though, this is a little shout out for a program called the UConn Health Leaders Program. This is a program based at the UConn Health Center, but they do have many sites around. We do have a dedicated version of the program for our post-bac students, but many UConn undergraduates have become involved in this, and it's a really cool blend of clinical, service, other things where you are screening incoming patients for the social determinants of health, and also completing a series of modules about working with different populations of patients. Okay, UConn Community Outreach is another great resource here just for identifying some of those programs. And then finally, extracurriculars. So whether you're doing something that is medically related in, you know, just outside of the classroom, or if it's just for fun, you know, if you're part of an a cappella singing group or club soccer or maybe a cultural organization, this is equally important and we can't stress it enough. So it goes back to that idea also of quality over quantity. You can check out a comprehensive listing of all the UConn student orgs at UContact. And guess what? This afternoon is the Giant Campus Involvement Fair. So from 2 to 7 p.m. if you're on stores, it will be set up on Fairfield Way, and many of these student organizations will have a booth. You can chat with current members, you can get on their emailing lists. We are also going to have a table, and we'll have a couple staff members present for part of it. So please do check that out. And, freshman year, especially if you're tuning in as a freshman right now, just really explore some things. You don't need to commit to anything necessarily right away, but, moving forward, just see what you are going to want to devote your time and energy to, ideally on a regular basis over an extended time, which is just going to lead to more things like leadership opportunities as well. What would anyone like to add about co-curricular engagement or any of these topics briefly?
My main advice is in your first year or two, try to ease into it, but also find something out of healthcare that you enjoy, like Krista mentioned. It's not about medicine. Enjoy yourself and find your communities.
Oftentimes it is those extracurriculars that are pure passion projects, which really grab the attention of admissions members. Erin, do you want to share the quick example we saw a couple of weeks ago about what the student with many interests?
Yeah, I was working with one of our applicants who's been working as a genetic counselor for several years after receiving her master's degree. And she had some really great experience. She's worked extensively with patients, she's taught. But then her last sentence that we wrote for her was about, how multifaceted and diverse her interests are. She rides a motorcycle, she plays 5 instruments, she's excellent in ultimate frisbee. And those are the kinds of things that really make our applicants stand out, both as, bringing uniqueness to a student body, but really also about being people that they want to bring in and be a part of their community and that sets them apart. So this is about purposeful exploration, but it's also about finding things that truly make you happy. I think Dr. Sanford wanted to mention something.
Yeah, folks have heard this statement forever, but schools are interested in interesting people. So a lot of times we see applicants when they get ready to sort of put in their applications, they don't even talk about the things that they're passionate about that have helped define who they are. So don't lose yourself here. Stay connected with your interests, stay connected with family, with friends, and don't give up on things that have really helped to shape you who you are and that you would really like to continue. And at the same time, be a bit innovative and try some new things.
Thank you. Do we have any new questions in the chat?
We have one about volunteering at a hospital. If you're reading or, just interacting with patients in a kind of social way, does that count as direct patient care?
Dr. Sanford, would you like to address this?
Sure, it's a great question, and the answer is that it varies. Some schools are going to give you sort of patient credit for it, and others will not. Even something like shadowing. Some programs don't sort of even categorize that as clinical. It's still, even if they don't, it still is a very important experience and gives you a really wonderful insight into the role and responsibilities and gives you a chance to sort of observe what works, what doesn't work with different patients in different places and different disciplines. So that's where you sort of have to get down to the nitty gritty, looking at individual websites and seeing what specifically counts and what doesn't. As a general rule, if you're in a clinical environment like that, you should, make sort of positive efforts to increase a little bit of the time you spend with patients, and you have to do that through whatever mechanisms exist wherever you're doing the work. I mean, a lot of times you start off as a volunteer filing papers in somebody's office and you really don't get to see a patient. So is that going to count from the admissions committee's point of view? Probably not. But sometimes you just have to put in a little bit of time, put yourself in a position where you're voicing, what you would hope to get out of the dedication and volunteer time that you're putting in. And, most of these folks will appreciate it, will look for opportunities for you, and will hopefully be able to adjust so that you are doing a bit more direct patient care activities. A lot of times that's governed very closely by a need for certificates, completion of programs like EMT and other things, but in at other sites, not necessarily a requirement to have that certification. For example, a lot of students get involved in donating some time in elder care facilities that don't necessarily require a CNA license or EMT or medical assistant. Then you are assigned to residents of the facility. You meet with them, you help them with some basic activities of daily living. You will often get them involved in different programming things they have available at these sites to keep them engaged and communicating well. So it's the sort of the answer you have to sort of get to when you get down to looking at specific things you want to do, and then to just double check with school websites will often be specific about that. A lot of other times they're vague about it. So you gotta get started someplace. So if you have an opportunity to volunteer, certainly do so. And once you're in the setting, that would be the time to be a little more specific about what you hope to get out of it, and see if where you are doing your volunteer work, they can fashion it in a way that it will satisfy what you're interested in and fulfill what your needs are as you're thinking about applying. So I'll invite other comment, but it's one of those that's a little bit of yes, a little bit of no.
I would say the bottom line though is that service is service. That is absolutely 110% service. And if that's something that's meaningful to you personally, you should absolutely continue it, regardless of what it may or may not be classified as by one particular school down the road. Okay, I'm just going to keep going here. We're in the home stretch. And so one of the last big ideas of holistic admissions that we just wanted to introduce today are these things called the core competencies. So you've probably at some point heard the term soft skills or transferable skills. And so the Association of American Medical Colleges has their own list of 15 categories, which they define as the skills, knowledge, abilities, also just personal attributes that they find really successful medical school students and professionals in the field embody. And so this is a recurring theme that you're going to be hearing from our office as you move forward in your pre-medical, pre-dental journeys. We encourage a lot of reflection about how you're meeting these different areas and helping you just kind of draw the threads together, connect the threads. And, you could represent these in any different area. It could be in the classroom, outside of the classroom, something that's medically related, something that's not medically related. Oftentimes, those kinds of things are actually the best ways to demonstrate these different skills. So for today, we just want to make sure you know they exist. You can just actually Google AAMC 15 core competencies. You'll come up with the list of them, see their brief descriptions. Just to highlight a couple of the big ones you will often hear about, the very first one is always the service orientation, actually. We talked a little bit already about scientific inquiry. That's another one. Teamwork skills, huge. And so this is, I think, a great example, though, of how you might demonstrate teamwork. Maybe you're in an extracurricular, that's a sport, but maybe you're in a research lab where you do have to work collaboratively with other students and grad students and postdocs. Or maybe you're part of a team in the hospital where each person has their own critical role to play. And so do you understand and know what the role of each healthcare provider is? Actually, I want to invite Heather. Do you have anything to say about competencies? I know this is one of your areas of interest.
Yeah, I think I would just reiterate, this is the place where really we can take those, experiences and student organizations or whatever it might be that you're getting involved with that might not be directly medically related, and talk about how they're going to strengthen your application when you get ready to apply down the road. So we're really excited about, you continuing to explore when you're in your undergraduate years and get those transferable skills and be interesting and unique when it comes time to apply.
Awesome, thank you. And this is going to be the focus of our second Health Foundations workshop in October. So stay tuned for more info. We also, talk with our current cycle applicants about these a lot. It's a really big emphasis on our applicant portfolio as well. So just a few key takeaways before we do some final wrapping up. So for today, we just want to make sure it is okay and encouraged, in fact, to pursue your passions. We never want you to feel like you're pigeonholed into doing something just because you have to take this checkbox type approach. Actually, it's completely the opposite. The med schools want you to do things that are meaningful to you. So one of our big phrases you'll hear often around our office too is health professional schools are interested in interesting people. Okay, so what makes you excited as a person? We've already today talked a lot about this idea of exploration and just in general, what do you want to get out of your undergraduate education? What are you looking forward to the most? What would you be sad you didn't get to do if it's graduation time? And for example, maybe you never studied abroad and that was just something you want to get out of life. Okay, so another point, just make the most of your 3 to 4 years ahead. And I really want to stress here too, the fact that you do not have to jump right from your undergraduate studies into your professional school studies. As I mentioned, that's actually not even the norm these days. So nationally, over half of applicants do take at least one extra growth year, doing a variety of things too. A lot of our alumni work maybe in a clinical setting for a year or two, or in a research setting or service, or something completely different. And so it all depends on what your timeline is, and we want you to put your best foot forward when it's time for you. The last quote is something that actually a senior student just mentioned to me last week, but I think it encapsulates pretty well this idea about, just try not to focus completely on grades alone, right? And needing to check this box and that box. Don't have such an orgo personality, but make sure you're doing things that just make you excited too. By the way, I don't think I mentioned before, I apologize, but our office, we work with alumni all the time on a daily basis. So you are always, always, always welcome to reach back out to us, even after you graduate, for both general advising and then for our applicant support processes. Okay, and the picture at the bottom there, this is actually 4 students who have just graduated in May, who pre-med, and as just one small example, they decided that, hey, they had a passion for knitting, and they wanted to turn that into a new student org on campus. So they formed a new group called Knit for NICU. You should see them, I believe, later this afternoon if you go to the involvement fair. And they've really built it up now to have partnerships with 3 local hospitals. And they knit little things like beanies or blankets or toys for the premature babies. So just, literally spin your passion into something new. Haha. Speaking of applicant support, so I just want to put this on your radar. If you are a freshman, first year or second year student, for example, this is just letting you know that they exist. If you are a junior, senior, or alum who's tuning in right now, just to let you know that we do have a very comprehensive applicant support process. This typically kicks off every January with a big event called Application Orientation, where we really introduce what the application cycle is all about to medical or dental school, what are the timelines, what are the different components, letters of rec, just all that good stuff. And then that's followed up by more specific workshops targeting different elements of that process. So our typical offerings, which may grow as well, include selecting schools, personal statements, secondaries, and then a little bit later in the summer, interviewing for health professional schools. So just as a sneak peek or preview of what some of our own support processes entail, so we do have an electronic applicant portfolio that if you choose to engage with our office, you would fill this out. It does have a very strong competency-based focus. and then submit that to our office. And we, this past cycle, for example, had 2 advisors read your responses ahead of time, and then chat them over in a 45-minute applicant coaching session with you. So this was a great chance to give really targeted feedback and, talk about how you're going to highlight and frame your unique strengths as an applicant and address any individualized questions you might have. We also offer a health professions letter packet, and so we will collect all of your individual letters of recommendation centrally in our office and then combine those into a letter packet with you, along with a personalized cover letter, which just really is kind of like a highlights reel of, again, those strengths, those really unique skills and types of things that you're bringing to the table. I invite any of our advisors now to chime in too. And Heather, maybe you want to say a word too about some of the alumni engagement that you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So, as you get to the application cycle, one of the ways we hope to support you is connecting you with recent alumni at schools that you might get invitations to interview at. And so some time to kind of pick their brains before you go for your interview. And so really excited about that. We currently have about 100 alumni that are participating in this first initial try at that. So excited to get you all connected.
I just want to add that we put this at the end for a reason. This is for many of you a long ways off, and your journey is long. Your journey will be up and down. And also just wanted to reiterate Krista's earlier point that the majority of applicants are taking gap years these days, and we anticipate in coming years that this will become almost an expectation. So this is all about making the choices that are right for you and the timing that is right for you, and will help you when the time comes.
Thank you. And just for reference, if you're not planning to take a growth year, so if you did want to begin health professional school the fall right after you graduate, that means you're actually applying to health professional school the summer after your junior year. And when I say summer, I do mean summer, so it's very accelerated, especially compared to undergraduate admissions. And the schools operate on a rolling admissions basis. So our goal is always to have as many of our applicants submit things, earlier in the summer, definitely by the end of the summer, at the beginning. Okay. Lastly, if you did want to check out just a couple more of the both our own resources here, but then some other great national and the professional organization resources, there's some links along with timelines, sample timelines, I should say. So you'll have access to these links in the slides afterwards. And then just to highlight a few really important UConn resources. So for example, we often collaborate actually with the Center for Career Development, called the CCD for short. And so they offer everything from walk-in resume critiques to mock interviewing practice. We do typically collaborate for our personal statement workshop and interviewing type things. So they're a really great place just to have on your radar, and they are based in the Wilbur Crofts building on campus with the big golden dome. There's also the Q Center and the W Center based in the library, and regional campuses have as well. And so these are just places to get some free tutoring for a lot of the introductory type courses and or really writing heavy courses, writing intensive courses, if you find yourself having a little bit of difficulty there. Lastly, the Academic Achievement Center, the AAC, they're a really great place to have in your radar if you'd like just a little help. If you might find yourself having a bit of a rough transition to college or figuring out a schedule that works for you or test taking strategies, they have some really robust mentoring programs as well. So definitely check them out. All right, and with that, this is my dog because I'm in the office today, so you couldn't get a cameo of her. I captured this pretty epic photo of her, so I just wanted to showcase. And hopefully you did get a lot of sleep this weekend though, and you're pretty recharged and ready to go. We do thank you so much for tuning in today. Look forward to meeting and working with all of you. And I invite any last words from our advisors and or questions in the chat.
Just a welcome again, and we're here to help in any way that we can. So don't make yourself scarce. We want to get.
Please do drop by if you're on campus Thursday afternoons between 1 and 3. You can just say hello. You don't have to have any questions. We'd love to meet you. Krista, Dr. Sanford, and I will all be there.
As I mentioned, we have hundreds of pens with our logo on it. We also have stress balls and highlighters. So, please hit us up for the free swag as well.
I would say just don't forget to follow us on Instagram too. We've got some great resources there.
Get on that emailing list if you're not already. Email us premed_predental@uconn.edu. Just say, I'd like to be added to the list.
We are on the row on the 4th floor. Sashi has asked, we're kind of spread out, but we're in the side closest to the Benton toward the middle of the student union, but all in one end of the hallway of row.
Erin, did your cats make a cameo? I couldn't really see. I thought I saw a tail at one point. Aha. I think you're obligated to introduce.
Toasty is hiding behind my computer, and I don't want to disturb her intense view of the outdoors beyond my computer, but yes, Toasty is here.
Okay, doesn't look like we have any more questions coming in, so I think we can wrap this up. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great Monday.